So this is Ken Griffey Jr. Winning Run Baseball. We're going to be playing a league game. It's going to end 14-0. Cubs win. So there will be some fireworks. It starts out pretty slow. If you want to fast forward to the exciting stuff where we start scoring, that's about 9:15. So feel free to fast forward through that. I'm going to be spending some time talking about the team itself and the game, some of the cool aspects of Ken Griffey Jr. Winning Run Baseball, released in 1996, focused around Griffey, who is the only actual player in the game, although you'll recognize players like Barry Bonds as Muscles McPhee and Sammy Sosa as Rebel Ruiz. And there you get some really funny names too. I think my favorite is T-Bone Malone on the Astros, he's a scrub, but at the same time, it's just fun, and the game's got some personality that other baseball sims just don't really have, because of the lack of licensing with the Players Association. It was just Griffey and then everybody else. So we're going to start the game here. First game of the season, it's always against the Padres, and the first game of the actual season itself, the cart season or the MLB season, is always the White Sox versus Mariners. It always ends 7-3 Mariners. So just file that away for later here. I'm going to try to talk through what's going on in real time. So right now I'm moving my outfield in because they're all max speed. I mean, it's gonna backfire on me immediately in this game, which is definitely odd and a little bit different. But the thing that really extends defensive innings and what really causes unnecessary runs to be scored on you are those little bloop hits to shallow outfield that, like, you see pitchers pull all the time, and it gets really annoying. The best way to counter that is to move your outfield in at all times, and especially the way that I pitch, which, as you're going to notice, or as you're noticing now, I've got Corey Howard, who's a super curveballer, pretty accurate, so you've got a lot of control, a lot of movement on his pitches. So he's a great pitcher, especially because super curveballers and knuckleballers and then lefty super changeup pitchers are kind of the only pitchers that really distinguish themselves in one player mode because of their ability to strike out or to manipulate the game, in the case of knuckleballers. But just in general, because I don't care about pitching, I don't really care about fielding, because I've got a max speed field for the most part, and it's just going to take care of itself. I'm really worried about only pumping up my batting stats. Now, that being said, it would take a minor miracle to score on this team for the normal AI. Now that I've got my outfield in, it would take 2 or 3 in a row hits to the gap where it's inaccessible. We saw that the top of the first. That kind of a hit would have to happen twice in a row at least, probably 3 times, for the computer to score a run, or more than likely any run scored on me this season will be from fluke solo shots, just from random players getting really good contact on me. So here's going to be the first hit of any significance in the game. That's a triple. I stretched it all the way down as far as I could just to see if I could beat the throw home with Curtis Swing, who is max speed and max contact V right. And so that makes him kind of the optimal guy to hit second. Jimmy Stealth his on base percentage, if you take away the sacrifice bunts that he's gonna get out on, will be. I mean, he'll be on base probably 2/3 of the time throughout the season, and Curtis Swing he's probably at 50% because I'll use him in more of a power role as well. So he'll be batting 500. I mean, between the two of those guys, you're pretty much guaranteed to get one at least on base for Bayless, and he's a boomer bust type of player. I use him to get really good contact and line drives, whereas Rebel Ruiz here, he's about swinging at this really crappy pitch. I shouldn't have swung at it. I knew better. I make mistakes, and so right now I'm just protecting the plate, just trying to make contact. I was too close, so that kills an inning. But the difference between that being a 0-run inning and that being a 2-run inning is the timing of one swing, really, or miss swinging there. And that's how you can start to see where scoring 20 or 30 runs a game isn't out of the question. As long as you've got your swing timing and you're really making the best possible moves in the batter's box, and you have the best possible players. So that's why the team is built, kind of the way it is here. Rebel Ruiz is by far, he's definitely one of the top 3 players in the game, just on merit of having max speed and max power. And at least in my estimation, that plus the fact that you can't trade for Griffey makes Griffey a little less valuable. Like to actually play Griffey, you have to play with Mariners, and you can totally load up the Mariners team as well, and you don't have to worry about the DH is there, so the pitcher never has to hit, so you don't have to worry about your bench. So in theory, the best possible team could be created on the Mariners using this strategy for the trade values. But I choose not to play in the American League because of the kind of the randomized fielding there. What you'll find is that the DH position, just that being in the lineup, will mess up the fielding assignments, especially after trades. And I honestly don't know, how complex it gets, but clearly you can test this out, and basically you cannot trust what position someone plays is the bottom line. And so yes, in this strategy you're going to be maxing out your speed pretty much everywhere possible, and you could, I guess, by brute force, just testing it over and over again, figure out which position Cutter Wells would actually be assigned to in X roster spot. It's just a pain in the ass, and it's not worth it. That whole DH mess up, that glitch, kind of ruins the American League. Not only that, but the American League players, just as on a whole, really stink. There's only probably, there's 2 teams worth something. So Cutter Wells, thank you for, he's fast enough to make it to second there, which is good. But yeah, that's kind of a nothing hit here. And but it could start a rally. So you got Slater coming up. He's going to sacrifice bunt, and you're going to see the anti-pickle in action again. So I take off to third with Cutter Wells, and then I take off to second simultaneously with Slater, who doesn't even have to be max speed. He could be anybody, and as long as you're keeping the catcher occupied with a guy potentially going to home, he has to guard the plate, and you get a free base. So having a guy at second base, a leadoff double is a really awesome situation. It opens up a lot of options to get on base. So like weak grounders, if you've got a guy that's not either hit and run or he's taking off from second, and you hit the ball weakly in the infield, the infielder might throw to third to try to get your guy there, and let you take first base even with a slower runner. So that happens. You can boost batting averages that way and maximize your base runners, which is the point of the strategy, in my opinion, is to maximize your men on base, and then therefore, from there, maximizing the rate of production, getting these guys across the plate. So to that end, the main things that you can influence in this game are your team speed and your team power and contact, because all those things are very important to getting first on base and then getting that base runner home. In the bottom of this inning, very shortly, we're going to be starting to score some runs. We're going to about to see like how this strategy is actually supposed to work a little bit. And just keep in mind that this, there are probably infinite ways to play this game, but just over the years, this is at least what's worked out for me in terms of optimization. So I'm not trying to say that any other player sucks or anything like that, but based upon the value you can get with this lineup, the basic trade values, I believe this is the best possible Cubs team you can put together, at least with this strategy. So again, if you don't care about pitching, you don't care about runs against, etc., this is the team for you. So Bayless, it's kind of a weak attempt at a bunt there. I was kind of hoping for like one of those plain pitches or a curveball, but this is what he does best. And so we're gonna get guys on second and third for Rebel Ruiz, who again, max power, which in this case I don't think it really pays off, but the max speed absolutely does, because of a really interesting quirk that was added to the game, which is that you can knock the catcher down, and that's the only player you can do that to. You can't disrupt a play at second base, for example, but you can definitely disrupt play at the plate by timing it correctly. So if you have a runner at third, and you want to, and a second, you want to score 2 runs, which you're going to see with Bayless later on I'm not sure if this inning or later. I'll score 2 runs on a sacrifice fly using that trick, but basically you can, get free bases by, simply incapacitating the catcher either with the ball or have the ball go behind him. So in this case here, I underutilized Razor Sizemore there, just to make sure I scored that run. And now I'm going to make a rookie mistake by getting caught off base with him. Sometimes I push the wrong button, or I get a little jittery, and that was that kind of moment, and that's a bummer because it killed what could have been a more runs in that inning. So moving back onto pitching, again, just straight fastballs, fastballs to get the swing in the first and third strikes. In between, I'm throwing regular balls out as far as I possibly can away from the batter. Now in this case here with a big guy like Willie Mills, if I had a super curveballer, I might try to catch him inside, because he gets no contact that way and just flies out harmlessly to first. This is what would happen there. So in this case here, I made a really bad pitch there, and got was lucky that I have a max speed outfield. So let's see here. What haven't we covered yet? I mean, fielding. I don't use auto fielding because that is really, really bad. I think auto fielding only moves. I mean, it uses the game AI defense, and you see how effective that is. So don't do it. The fielder assist though is actually kind of useful. Next time we get to defense, we'll talk about it. But yeah, again, at the bottom of the order, the idea is that we never get to the bottom of the order like Cutter Wells and Jack Hammer without guys on base. We want guys on base for those two, because they're basically built to put runs in on the board. So Frank Slater is the absolute best value you can get for a ton of guys in this game, based upon their trade values. So you can get Billy Pope or Frank Slater, and be rated 30 or under in your trade value, and to be making a killing. Those two guys are just, in the grand scheme of the game, pretty equal players in terms of value. Pope is obviously cheaper, but Frank Slater has max speed, which is incredibly useful, and you want that over above average stats that Pope will bring. Although Pope is still better than 85% of the players in this game. I will just say that. I mean, he works anywhere, so everyone knows that he's the most successful player in the game. So I'm not going to get too much into that. Jimmy Stealth is max contact, so he can place the ball. So that's what we did here. You'll notice that I didn't start my bunt. Okay, so terrible basement running error again. But I didn't start my bunt until the ball was close to the plate. And the reason I do that is because the timing of your bunt is just like the timing of your swing. If you swing late, then you're going to be more likely to hit the ball to opposite field. And bunts work exactly the same way. The computer sees the bunt action as the same as the swing action, and it gives you that push or pull, like that push or pull benefit. So in addition to the contact V left, contact V right being optimal coverage of the plate, and stealth being just wicked fast, he is by far the best player to use top of the lineup. He's a good center fielder because center field isn't going to be throwing out a bunch of guys, and his arm is super weak because he's got almost no power. So just keep in mind, I mean, that the optimal place for him is going to be center field, or possibly left field, because right field you have a chance to throw guys out at first, and you want that guy to be Rebel Ruiz, Muscles McPhee, someone max power with great speed. If you can't really afford those guys, someone like Ram Donaldson maybe might be a good bet. I don't know. Like McPhee and Ruiz are in a class of their own. So Curtis Swing goes yard here. So he again is max speed and max hit V right. And so I use him in a dual role. A lot of times he'll be bunting or hitting for contact like I use Bayless. But I kind of felt like, why not? I like to hit for power once in a while too. Bayless is going to get the benefit of a crappy AI, so that's auto fielding right there. Is you've got the computer that can only handle one guy at a time, and so it couldn't do anything with center field. And center field didn't respond fast enough because the shortstop was still moving, so the ball trickled right by him, giving the double. So again with Ruiz, like I don't know what it is with me in this particular game, but I was not swinging confidently with him until this moment. 407 feet again. This is a pretty good home run. So brings Bayless home, brings Ruiz home. At this point, the game is completely out of reach for the other team, even if they were scoring normally. So it's kind of bonus from here. I believe with Sizemore, I tried to get some lift under that ball. It was kind of a very weak. He was too far away. So on to kind of the hitting stats here. So power is really important because it dictates your chances of hitting a ball of great distance. Or maybe it actually reduces the chances that you hit a duff, like you don't hit the ball very well. Contact V left, contact V right, on the other hand, appear to make your sweet spot, laterally along the left or right, the x-axis in the batting cage. It tends to be more forgiving for being farther away from the ball. Billy Pope there, he got max power under that ball. He got no contact. Or conversely, maybe he got no power and all contact. I'm not entirely sure. More testing needs to be done there. But that kind of a bummer that none of my pinch hitters got a hit in this game. There you see the Jimmy Stealth getting the benefit of having your outfield play in. A lot of the time that goes for a hit. That play right there, I'm trying to perfect the jumping technique in fielding. What I've found is that to jump successfully, your player cannot be moving at all, and you have to completely disengage from moving, or be lucky enough to be right underneath it, within a bunch of pixels. I don't know what the exact, I can't tell you inches on the screen or something like that, but within the area, so you can't be moving, and then you use the dive button again to engage and try to jump. And about half the time, I did it earlier in the game, I got it right, but since I'm moving all the time with my fielders, there's not a lot of time for me, and plus I'm terrible at getting in front of the ball or getting around the ball. Like I really don't like that feeling. It's one of the reasons I use the fielding assist, because it takes care of most plays for me in the outfield. I don't have to worry about taking control of my guy. But in the infield, it doesn't really work out, and so I rely upon speed and it allowing me to get into places or correct myself. And here, Frank Slater, using him unconventionally. Usually, I start him out by bunting and trying to push the ball, but in that case, I think at this point I'm trying to test to see if the Pete King pitching, or the pitcher, if he is quote unquote getting tired, because you can tell there's definite grades in pitching effectiveness in the game, and they show it in terms of days of rest needed. And all pitchers in the game AI, they get to the point of needing 1 day of rest or whatever that does to their stats before the game takes them out because they need rest. And so that's why a lot of your huge innings in games are, in the 5th through 7th, especially if you're having a rough go in the beginning. Not only are you probably hitting better naturally because you're timing yourself better, but also the pitcher themselves, I believe that the AI is being degraded somehow, or the pitches are coming slower. Don't know exactly what it means, but it's a trend. Definitely the fielding seems to be more forgiving. The farther along you get in the game, or the more runs I guess you score, it almost appears that there are different levels of fielding AI as well. And I kind of think those are maybe due to the different options that you have to move your outfield around. I think that the computer will, the AI will put outfielders, let's say in this case here, like let's say that guy was super deep, that's where he started out in the outfield, and by using that setting, the AI puts itself at a disadvantage for line drive shots and whatnot. It's just a thought. So here we see Bayless. This is the one where he's going to score 2 on a sac fly because we knocked the catcher down. We had max speed guys on base paths. So that's the main payoff for going speedy, is that even your bad plays, if you execute them well, can lead to a lot of runs scored. And this is just a sweet swing. This is the benefit of having a high contact, max power guy. Big Magoo, Slick Fitz, Rebel Ruiz, Ken Griffey Jr. Those guys are magic from both sides of the plate. No weakness really at all. So whenever you can get one, do get one. Although, it gets a little dicey with Magoo because of speed, and Slick Fitz is barely serviceable. Sizemore, bloop single. Hard to tell if my fielding would have gotten that one, but that's the kind of stuff that the AI kind of chews you up with over time. So, and he's fast enough to stretch that kind of a hit to a double all on his own. So here we have, so he was this. I believe this is where I strike out, and this is like the most embarrassing of that ever, because it's just unnecessary. I killed a rally. I had the guy on second, which is basically the perfect way to start out in a bat. Perfect, max speed guy at second, and he just threw that curveball and messed me up. I had a completely different thought on what pitch was coming next, and it's kind of a bummer when that happens. But there's a reason that every inning comes to an end. So you can't just play perfectly all the time. Although defensively, there's really, especially when now that all you have to do is pitch down the plate, and 95% of your pitches will be resolved harmlessly. And there's really no reason for you to get to be in this part of the game and be wondering, hey, am I going to win this game or not? You should know for a fact that there's nothing that the game is going to do to beat you by now. So that's with any lineup. Stats make your players better, but timing and placement in the batter's box is really what gets it done. So, that's why you can hit home runs with pitchers. It's rare. Like, you have to connect, but you can do it. And I've hit a home run with Trip Auto before. That's a cool feeling. Just just knowing that you took a guy that, for all intents and purposes, just he sucks because fielding and arm doesn't matter. And just being able to have fun with the guy. So and I'm sure that that if you're watching this, you've probably challenged yourself to take to go through some sort of a season with like the crappiest team you can possibly assemble. And, I don't know how successful you were with it, but I still found that I couldn't lose. Like, even the crappiest team, I think my best hitter was, the last Sam Hope or something like that. Like some bench scrub from the AL that just happened to have like halfway decent power. Was my best player, and I was still, taking teams out 8 or 9-0, just based upon linking hits together once you get the timing down, for that certain pitching AI. So, this here, like another, like the AI never strings together that many in a row, but it does get a little frustrating when you're and trying to pick off the runner. There's special timing that will allow you to preempt the the runner leading off the bag, and will make it impossible for the animation to move the runner fast enough back to the bag for it to be safe. So it's all about timing. Now you've got either max speed or guys that are very near max speed will allow themselves to be picked off on a regular basis. And you definitely want to do that. You don't want fast base runners on base against you. That's just a huge pain in the butt. They will score runs on you if they get to second base and you get a base hit. So definitely control them. It's really a good idea if you have an opposing batter on second to make sure that you do make them hug the bag. So throw back there regardless, because what you don't want is that guy to have a lead going around third and making you make a choice of having to throw home and potentially getting someone, or taking the runner out maybe at second base or whatever. So just try not to put yourself in crappy situations when you're defending, and you'll be okay. So my entire strategy is to reduce the amount that I actually have to influence fielding, and to maximize my chances for easy results on the field. So the bottom of the eighth, I score 4 more runs in this inning. I've noticed that runs, tend to come in fits and spurts. I've managed to score 13 runs in a row in season. That's the most, or not 13 runs in a row, 13 runs in an inning. That's the most I've managed to score in an inning. And so Bayless with another double. He's a doubles machine. So and I've maxed out at, I believe it's 32. I'm almost certain it's 32 runs in a game in the regular season. So like a game like this, you can score that many runs if you get on a roll. You have good players. But in the challenge, the ladder challenge, where you play the Pirates first, I've played as the Mariners, and granted, I did this a lot, and I'm just getting great fielding AI right now. So he should have gotten that in the center field, but he did not. So, but playing the Pirates in the challenge, I have scored 45 before just using the Mariners regular in the box team. That's the only teams you can use, because it's not that the Pirates suck that much. They actually are. I mean, they do suck, but the Cardinals are the worst team in the game, by far. So nice home run here, 412, the longest home run to either side of the field in this game. Longest, by the way, is 422 in home run derby. But the AI though, like that optimal AI where it just lets everything go by it or in front of it or behind it, and you see that pop up in spurts. And I wish I had a better way to identify it, but like I know when it's there, and that's where you start hitting for contact. That's where you start hitting the line drives and the ground balls, or trying to to jack home runs with your guys, because it just feels like once you're in that timing zone, and once that AI has gone completely cold and can't field your stuff, and just mixing bunts in there, keeping guys on base. I mean, it's just like it kind of works together, and you get some really out of control innings. See, this is another gap shot. This is actually super dangerous. I probably should have approached that at bat a lot differently, just because like I probably shouldn't just be throwing that ball to a guy that the computer will absolutely try to jack with. And there are certain players that the computer, all they do is try to launch with Tony Taloni and Bopper O'Reilly and Phil Boone, like all big guys. And I don't know if it's just like a big guy thing where if you're quote unquote big in this game, the AI will try to hit for power, and if you're small, they try to hit for contact. I mean, certainly not that way with Muscle McPhee, for example. But I don't know. There's a lot to learn. And in this case here, like I'm doing a throwing. This sounds stupid, but like I wanted to do a test on arm strength, and in a separate use of this video, I'm actually I've actually proven out that power influences your arm based upon the difference between Curtis' swing at third base and Danny Bayless at first, having different power ratings and throwing the ball at slightly different speeds. So anyway, the game's over. Crushed them 14-0. A lot of hits though for the Padres. That was a rough game, and my score could have been much higher had I not made stupid mistakes. So anyhow, thanks for watching. Go Rebel Rees, go Cubs, and we'll talk soon.